Okay, so this is the amphitheatre. It's been designed by Jazzmax as a modern learning environment. And the whole design of this started with the squares that are in the event space, because they're 100% pallet wood. Now the 900 by 900 square module, which is just under a metre, was designed based on the availability of that pallet wood that I showed you and how long it is. So that's why it was 900 by 900. That impacted the entire design across the entire flagship, which was in these squares with the railway sleeper type timber holding it up. So the jarrah was so hard on the tools, and health and safety wise it started to get a little bit hectic cutting that stuff because it's so hard, that we shifted to macrocarpa. So this is macrocarpa that I was talking about before. Now this can act untreated as a joist or a bearer, as long as it's horizontal rather than vertical. That'll last for 25 years outside without rotting, untreated, and it's all salvaged. So it's a really wonderful timber. It smells really good too, and it's very easy on tools. So it's actually a really good option for building decks and building houses. I think that it should be easier to use this in the building code, and I'm working on that with the local New Zealand chapter of the Living Futures Institute, which is who administers the Living Building Challenge here. So we're going to be having an event about timber durability. I've become very passionate about it, like I love it, finding the right stuff to use. So that's macrocarpa, that's eucalyptus saligna, the same as the balustrades, and then these posts are tortora. So it's quite a good spot to be showcasing these different types of durable timbers. We then have cedar. So we have a double glazed window, these apex windows, 2 of them, and we have these slabs on the toilet block, and they're made of cedar. So that was a tree that had died and fallen down or blown down in a storm that a friend of mine in Raglan salvaged and cut up into slabs and timber. And he basically donated them to us, which is pretty amazing, because cedar is the very best possible wood that you can use for joinery. So for windows and doors, because it's very stable and it won't rot. So it's very light as well. So it makes it wonderful to work with. Normally incredibly expensive, but we were lucky. We had a lot of cool people that supported us. This is our Pahurakawa, which was the brilliant idea of Cam to use those concrete blocks to put it in here, is how we've set it up. But it's basically set up to give shade to kids when they're in here learning. And also because it's kind of cool. Interestingly, one of the areas that we need to achieve in the Living Building Challenge is urban agriculture. That's why there's quite a few edible plants in the planters around the place. The flowers on Pahurakawa trees are edible. And we're going to be showcasing mahinga kai and rongoa and toi Māori opportunities down here, which is mahinga kai is traditional food gathering, rongoa is traditional medicine, and toi Māori is making art out of plants, plant materials. So for example, weaving flax into mats, or weaving things, or making jewellery out of different plant matter, which is quite important culturally for Māori. So we've designed the gardens to look at achieving those goals, which is aligned to what we do with our riparian planting work. And these species here that are showcased are very similar species to what we'd use in a riparian planting situation, particularly in a wetland. Okay, up here, we might have to kind of stack in a little bit. All of these handrails are tortora. Yeah, you should be able to see it from around there, that'll be fine. I'm going to go up into here. All of these handrails are tortora that we got moulded into the handrail shape. And these stair edgings and these green things on the handrails, they glow in the dark. So you need them for emergency escape lighting, but these use 0 electricity and achieve enough brightness to meet building consent, to meet the code. Okay, we'll come up here. Okay, so these slabs are the ones I was talking about, which are cedar, which came from the salvaged tree in Raglan. All of the framing material in this whole toilet block is salvaged wood. So we denailed about 3 kilometres of structural timber that was donated by demolition yards with corrections, with offenders over in the gravel pit. So all of the framing in here and all of the roofing purlins, which are big bits of wood like that run right on top of the containers that hold the roofing material on, they're all salvaged, mainly Oregon, also known as Douglas fir. And you can see that it's been salvaged because it's full of nail holes. And then this material here, this cladding with the koru on it, that was made for the Rugby World Cup, and it was left over, and it was sitting in a storage yard, and we were donated that by Panuku, by our landlords. And then the rest is pretty much the leftovers of whatever we had sitting around, which is like extra bits of cladding that we didn't need down in the event space. Both of these doors are double glazed, and they were from a demolition yard. So you're looking at a structure that is, almost entirely salvaged materials at the top up here. So it's going to have, and I've been talking to the guys about it, but it's going to have a Declare labelled rubber surface that's really easily moppable, and a drain hole in here for when the water from the rain pours in. That's going to be one of the small changes. I'm going to defer that until after the presentation. And it's been an epic. It's been we went all the way through to building consent in a different site, which was about $180,000 worth of other people's time, and easily a year of my life, and probably something close from Camden as well. And then we lost that site, and we moved the whole idea, managed to get this site, start from scratch in terms of all of the design. And we've basically reckoned that more than 2,000 people have worked on this, if you incorporate all of the labour from offenders. So we pulled apart about 2,500 pallets and denailed about 3 kilometres of timber, and then all of these squares, these decking squares right the way through, and all of the cladding in the event space, that was all fabricated by prisoners at Pāremoremo. They also modified these shipping containers, so they cut all that steel up, they cut those holes in them and reinforced them, and made that wetland system for us in the prison. So you're talking about like violent offenders, most of them are violent offenders, in a maximum security prison, operating welders and big grinders and learning skills that are going to reduce reoffending for when they come out. So it's something that is quite amazing to go and experience, to see what they do. They take some serious risks with these guys, but I've become a strong advocate for it. I think it's really, really important that these guys get some skills. So over here, this is a really cool little feature. We wanted a material that was locally sourced and was going to have a high insulation value and would look quite good. And so we managed to find a very old machine out in Muriwai, which Priscilla remembers, and we pressed 650 earth bricks. They're stabilised with a Declare labelled cement, Golden Bay cement, which is what Firth was talking about before. And we were donated these glass blocks, which are kind of retro from the 80s, and we put them in there because they're actually double glazed as well. They're a glass brick. In here we have composting toilet tanks. So the reason why this really expensive toilet block is here that goes up into the air is because those tanks are massive and need a whole bunch of space. Normally, if you were building a house, you wouldn't have a flat site like this and you'd be able to dig a hole in the ground. We didn't dig at all here because basically the land underneath us is heavily contaminated, and environmentally not doing earthworks is really, really important. Like, digging holes in the ground is what causes sediment to go into the harbour. And that's the number one problem that Auckland's got, is sediment. You'd agree with that, Fletcher? I mean, that's what they say in the State of the Hauraki Gulf State of the Environment report. Sediment is the worst thing, and that is construction, is what that guy was talking to us about. Construction projects where they're digging big holes and then it rains and it all goes into the drain. So not digging is better than that. But if you had a site with a house site that was going down, then you could put the toilet blocks, like those toilet tanks, on the lower part of the site, and not have to build up. We just built up because we had to, because of where we were.